Whoa. That is where my script ends. It's cut off. Okay, you can turn the lights on. The screen cuts off. That says warning spoilers ahead because there's just no way to do this without spoiling the like 10 movies that they made. What? That's fine. Okay, so alright. Now I'm gonna look over you so that I avoid Father Jim rolling his eyes the whole time. Alright, so I'm gonna start off with if you look at your program, number 6 tells us that 2 stories, 1 truth. Tells us that one helpful thing we can do is if we compare our story to that of the hero or main character. So for example, growing toward heroism is the Avengers story. Growing toward holiness is your story. The difference really is just details. So when we look at these stories, we notice that in a good hero story, heroes should be identifiable. We should be able to relate to them. We should see their humanness, we should see their weaknesses, but ultimately they are meant to inspire us to something greater, because that's the point. The whole point of having ridiculous heroes is that we are made for greatness. That we are made for more than we know. The world needs heroes. In reality, the world needs saints. And each and every one of us answers that call. That is our first vocation. Our first calling from God is the call to holiness, the call to be a saint. And each one of us has more potential than we know. So, we are called to be inspired in that way. So, I started off with this notion of communio, which is just the Latin for communion. But I like to use the Latin specifically because it sort of takes us outside of the frame of mind of thinking specifically about the sacrament of Holy Communion, about the Eucharist, which is the fullest manifestation, sacramental manifestation of the larger theological reality, which is what we're made for communion with God and with one another. So we have this team of heroes that shows us about being a part of something bigger than ourselves. Actually, I'm not going to turn that down because it's going to get carried away. I had way too much fun preparing. So we see that coming together, they provide us a fuller picture of heroism. Just like St. Paul talks about the church as one body with many parts, so also the Avengers. And just as Benedict XVI talked about the communion of saints as the great mosaic of holiness that runs all throughout salvation history. I love that book. So also, we see the diversity as well as the unity. I don't know if I've heard this. Just turn off the music. You can still hear me, right? Yes. Yeah. All right. So there is no one mold for heroism. Each one of these characters embodies the unique dimension of heroism, and that's what we're going to look at. Each one, however, is made stronger by the others, because that's what happens in community, and that's what happens in the church in particular. That as they come together, encouraging, challenging, inspiring, coming to blows, and learning to be one, that's what happens. So, okay, so that's what's going on. You're not going to be able to see the bottom of any slide ever. But the process helps each one become the unique hero he or she is made to be. So we start with the man himself, Steve Rogers. Yes. So, the great quote given to him by Dr. Abraham Erskine, who is his surrogate father figure in the first movie, is he tells him the night before he ends up dying, remember who you are, not a perfect soldier, but a good man, which is of course irony because he's about to become a perfect soldier. But that's not what's important. And this is the ongoing truth of Steve, is that he's a good man. He's one of the few heroes in Hollywood, really, who is actually a good man. It's incredible. That's, in a nutshell, that's why I love it, right? And so because of that, he is the man of integrity. That many of you have probably heard me say, my definition of integrity is living consistently the deepest truth of who you are. This is like Steve's whole lesson in a nutshell, is remain who you are, the good man that you are in your life. And so because of that, he teaches us what true fortitude is. True fortitude is not just to keep fighting, but it's to keep persevering in the good. No matter how many obstacles are in your way, no matter how much the culture laughs at you, no matter how old-fashioned it is, which of course is a big thing in the Avengers. And because he is that man of true integrity, he's able also to draw the best out of others. He does that, and there's constant examples, but the clearest example is, well, the whole movie of Captain America Winter Soldier, where it becomes the perfect follow-up to the movie where he learns the lesson about living consistently the truth of who he is. Now he's faced with a brother who has forgotten who he is, and has forgotten the goodness within him. And Steve is willing to lay down his life to help him remember, to help him recover that. So the exact opposite. The epitome of conversion as a work in progress, Tony Stark, and you can even see it like his suit is even an image of that, right? He's always building a new one, right? But it all started when he got a new heart in the first movie. His heart was wounded, and he's given a new heart. Really, in reality, of course, it's a thing that keeps his heart alive, but that imagery actually comes up a lot over the course of the movies, is that he's given this new heart. So what happens in the first movie? He encounters his sin, the evil he's been living. He begins to hate it, and he begins to take responsibility for it, beginning to set things right. But you're not supposed to get the impression by the end of that first movie that he's done yet, because that's the whole point, is that he's not done yet. The whole series is the story of him becoming the hero, that he's always living this conversion as a work in progress. So, as annoying as it is, he has this understandable moral relapse in the beginning of Iron Man 2, where he's back to his old dirtbag self, and I want to punch him in the face the first half of the whole second movie. It becomes an opportunity for that whole second movie to be a reflection of the fact that he's gradually realizing that his ways of living his life are standing in the way of being the hero he's made to be. And we see what's going on underneath is that his heart is starting to die. You've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But furthermore, the process of healing involves healing the father wound, the wound in his relationship with his father. And all of this is meant to prepare him for Communio, such that when he enters into the Avengers, he's challenged and strengthened by his brothers in arms, though he still has huge trust issues, as we see, such that by the end he's willing to lay down his life totally. And then Iron Man 3, we see how he's a changed man for better and for worse. And the whole third movie becomes a story of really trying to recover himself, overcoming obsession and fear. And I get the impression this is still going to be a big theme in Avengers Age of Ultron. What I've seen. Yes. So, when we first meet him, he's the one who's first helping Tony realize this reality of being part of something bigger than himself. He says, you think you're the only superhero in the world. This is essentially what he helps Tony realize, including by giving him the tools he needs to heal the father wound, by the way. That he's part of something bigger than yourself. If you haven't seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., first of all, let me tell you how at a later date, because if you start, it's like reading the Bible. No, not really, but if you start out, you'll get to this point where you're like, why am I still watching this? But then it'll get so good. So, I wasn't planning on saying any of that. Okay. But eventually you learn that Fury's speech that he gives to S.H.I.E.L.D. recruits is that one man can accomplish anything once he realizes he can be part of something However, in Avengers and Age of Ultron, we look sides of this man and begin to see that he's not always a role model, but what he is he's one man trying to work for justice in the midst of a deeply broken system. It's big in Winter Soldier. Okay. Now, since the cat's out of the bag about my thoughts about Christopher Nolan, thank you, Amanda Ang, in a nutshell, here's what I like about the difference between Christopher Nolan and Marvel Studios, right? Christopher Nolan is really good at creating this starkly realistic image that causes us to really rethink our notion of reality. But by the end of a Christopher Nolan movie, I often am left thinking that reality is less than what I think it is. Marvel Studios has a way of inviting me to think that maybe it's more than what I think it is. And that's more true. And that's what I like. So, if you want, David and I will have a celebrity death match outside afterwards, but yeah, so Thor is the character that demonstrates that. He represents this reality so much bigger than what we know. It comes from this whole other place, and he's a revelation of this whole world beyond. And so, of course, the first movie ends up becoming this whole story of him entering in out of that world, entering into our experience, learning humility and sacrifice, such that by the time he comes back in Avengers, we really see why he's coming back. That when his brother has become a villain, he's coming not only to stop his brother's evil, but he returns to take his brother home to the Father. Not unlike Christ comes, not saying Thor is Jesus, not unlike Christ, takes us who have become sinners home to the Father. And that becomes an interesting theme in Thor Dark World as the whole reality that redemption is not lost with Loki. Okay. He's a man who has created a monster capable of horrible things, which he becomes if he goes unchecked. And he desperately wants to be rid of it. So now, here's the important part. What?
4 minutes.
Okay. Now he devotes himself to controlling his passions. And he has this incredible sense of responsibility. And such that he's now learned the hard way that just because we can do something that could have potential helpful benefits doesn't mean we should. You want another good movie on that? Watch Jurassic Park. Okay. So he makes great sacrifices for the good of others, becomes a role model for others, especially Stark. Now, Miss Natasha Romanoff, if that is her real name. As we meet her, we are uncertain of who she is, and the more we get to know her, the more we start to wonder if she is certain of who she is. Yet, she has this strong sense of duty to Hawkeye, and we begin to learn why. We begin to realize that he saw something in her, something worth saving. And that she is now striving for redemption, striving to wipe out the red in her ledger, to know that all of her brokenness doesn't define her. She's striving, I think, to discover whatever it is that Hawkeye saw, whatever it is that he saw in her that was worth saving. And so we understand her best in light of the most underrated Avenger, Clint Barton, also known as Hawkeye. The first quote he says in Avengers, one of the first lines of the movie, he says, "I see better from a distance." Great, simple, fun little characterization line. What happens when you see from a distance? You see the big picture. You see what others do not. And so he saw something in her that perhaps she could not. He chose to save her and becomes an opportunity to learn understanding, mercy, important qualities of a hero. Now, second chances. The awesome lives. I found that online and I was like, yeah, you go somebody who made that. So in Avengers we realize that he's a man who is daring to believe with a childlike faith things that other people think are ridiculous. Maybe, and the great quote he tells Steve, maybe what we need right now is a little old-fashioned, right? And so, because of that, he inspires the heroes themselves to finally come together for the sake of the mission. He's able to see beyond the surface because he has this childlike faith. Because he's known heroes, the extraordinary heroes, he's walked with them, he's seen not only their strengths, but their weaknesses, their humanity. And because of that, he has this great knack for identifying ordinary heroes. Seriously, if you haven't watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., watch it, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. And so this, like the entire theme of the first season, I would say, he's always giving second chances so that others can become the heroes they were made to be and fulfill the mission they were called to. So for us who are called to be ordinary heroes, let us close with a message from St. John Paul II. Therefore, accept with humble courage what God sets before you. In his great power and tenderness, he calls you to be saints. It would be foolish to vaunt such a call, but it would be reckless to refuse it. St. John Paul II, pray. Glory be to the Father, to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall